I'm Kyle Malnati, your host of the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. At Calibrate, we exist to help people create generational wealth through real estate. My personal mission is to encourage, empower, and educate you by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. Broadcasting from the Mile High City, thank you for tuning in to episode 151 of the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and thank you for riding with us. 151 episodes, holy cow. Big shout out to Kayla Davis for producing our podcast since the beginning. Guys, we have a monster guest, a huge guest, someone that doesn't need introduction, but we have to give an introduction because maybe you haven't heard of him. Over my shoulder are 6 books written by a gentleman named Mike Michalowicz. Mike is the author of Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, of Pumpkin Plan, Profit First, Surge, Clockwork, Fix This Next. I mean, 6 books and just incredible success, especially Profit First, Clockwork, Fix This Next. Those are some of his most popular titles. If you don't know Mike Michalowicz has built 4 multi-million-dollar companies. He sold one to Fortune 500 company, sold another to private equity, and maintains a controlling interest in the others. Mike's also experienced 10 failed businesses and the loss of his entire fortune twice. His intense experiences have driven Mike to be an author who radically simplifies the business owner's journey. The coolest thing about Mike is his mission is very succinct, but a huge mission. His mission is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. I've heard him on tons of podcasts. People that I really, really respect have interviewed Mike, and we were able to get connected with him. This is going to be such an amazing interview. And I have to pause for just a second before we introduce Mike in person. A lot of times I do a live intro, and the way that some of these bigger authors that we're going to get more and more of here on the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast, the way that it works is I've got a tight window of time with him. And I want to make sure that you honor that by just understanding that this is a huge, huge request from us. We don't do this a lot at the beginning of our show. Please share this podcast. Our podcast audience has grown tremendously, especially once we hit episode 50. Now we're at episode 151. We need your help. And I really, really need your help. We put a lot of time and energy into these episodes. Please share it. If it's a text message with a link to a friend, obviously, if you can rate it, that helps us on Apple Podcasts, especially. If you can just tell people that you're listening to it. If you want to snapshot it, put it on Instagram saying that you're listening to it, tag Mike and myself. I promise you, Calibrate Nation, this episode is absolutely going to make a big difference to all of you. So without further ado, here is Mike Michalowicz, my interview with him, and I'll be back to share some ideas about what I'm going to do with these books here. I've also got a stack of Fix This Next books. So Mike Michalowicz here in a minute, and then I'll be back to share what I'm doing with these books. Mike Michalowicz, welcome to our podcast. Welcome to Calibrate Real Estate. I have already introduced you, but it's so great to see you. It's great to have such an esteemed author on our guest. I've got to say to our audience, your writing style is informative, it's practical, and it's funny. I laugh out loud reading your books. I don't know if you've ever heard that before from other people, but they make me happy, especially because I feel like someone that's writing, they're writing to me and they totally understand me. So I just wanted to say that to you at first. Flattery, of course, is my game.
Thank you for having me on your show, Kyle. And thanks for those comments. I find that books need to be of service by being engaging too. Like, great content sometimes gets lost in mire because it's too difficult to consume. I want people laughing. I want people to say, oh my gosh, that's me. I want people crying. I want us going through the emotional journey together. So I'm just so happy that you saw the funny moments in the book.
I absolutely love it. I feel like I'm reading a book by one of my friends that's fellow business entrepreneurs. So it feels like we've known each other forever, and I'm sure that happens quite a bit, but we're just meeting for the first time here on Zoom, and let's get right into it. So all entrepreneurs face the same problems. And the question that we're going to answer together here with Fix This Next, which is over my shoulder, and we're going to do an awesome giveaway for your new book, Fix This Next. The question that we're going to answer is, which problem do we tackle first?
Right.
And some context around that, Mike, is that this week actually marks the 4-year anniversary of me opening Calibrate Real Estate, a boutique brokerage firm. And it was funny, I was kind of waxing nostalgic, looking through my iPhone at photos from 4 years ago, and moving day. And I remember reading this in Fix This Next. Moving day for me, out of the team that I was working with at a boutique brokerage firm, when I was moving out to take care of our first startup office space and get that all ready, there was so much vision, so much promise. And, you know, the problem was, as I continued to wax nostalgic, I got to about a month later, and all of a sudden I saw the big white paper on the wall, you know, those big Post-it notes that everybody uses now. They used to be easels. Now you stick them up on the board, you write notes. We were doing a quarterly strategic priorities exercise. And I definitely suggest everybody do that. I learned it from Entree Leadership. I was actually in Entree Leadership All Access, and I know you were interviewed on their podcast by Ken Coleman.
Yeah.
And they had this great exercise. They called it the 4 insights. Basically, you answer what's working, what's broken, what's missing, and what's confusing. And I remember in that moment, a month after we opened up, I took a photo of it because my whole team, we were all doing this together. And I took a photo of it, sent it to my wife, who's co-owner in our business. And I remember feeling really, really overwhelmed. And I said, how can I ever get all of this done?